I'm Tony Sklar with bnetTV. We're here at the LTE Forum in Singapore. I am speaking with Miss Chris Perera from GSMA. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Fantastic. Listen, for our first-time viewers, it's the first time you and I have had a chance to speak on camera. New position here at GSMA. Why don't you give me a brief overview of what you actually cover at the GSMA?
Sure. As you said before, my role is a newly created role within the GSMA. It's to cover the Asia-Pacific region on spectrum issues as well as regulatory affairs issues.
So, big responsibilities since there's a lot of infrastructure that's going into the APAC region as a whole. Spectrum is being divvied up amongst lots of different players within the ecosystem. What are some of the challenges that you're faced with?
I think the biggest challenge right now is probably spectrum harmonization within the region. So there's a lot of work going on within the digital dividend, 700 megahertz band. And the challenges would be some countries would be behind their analog switch off to digital, and some countries will be ahead. So there might be differences in the timing of that happening, and because of that, having a harmonized band plan for the region could be a little bit more difficult because of different timings.
So you recently just spoke on some topics, and can you give us a brief overview of what those topics were and how it was received by the audience?
Sure. I spoke on the importance of spectrum harmonization for the region, and also if we don't have spectrum harmonization, if it's fragmented, what are the opportunity costs of that? And I also touched on the importance of global harmonization for roaming. And if that's not achievable, then at least the need to have regional harmonization.
There's a big issue, obviously, with the fact that there's already been a rollout in certain countries at certain spectrum levels, and now, of course, in APAC, everybody is talking about a higher level of spectrum. How does that affect the policy and regulation throughout the ecosystem?
Are you referring to the one band in particular, like the 700 band? So yeah, obviously, as you know, US has rolled out some networks for the 700 megahertz band. However, it only supports two operators nationally, and the rest of the licenses are allocated regionally. So, and the APT band plan, I guess, was developed because it gives more spectrum for operators. There's a TDD band plan, but the most common one that's being harmonized is the FDD band plan, which is 2 times 45 megahertz, which is quite a lot of spectrum. But obviously your question was the impact. So if the whole APT region adopts this band plan, it's great for the region. However, the US devices will not work in this region with that band plan.
So one of the challenges that globally that we're going to see is the fact that certain devices, regardless if it's a mobile phone or a tablet or even a machine-to-machine device, that there's not going to the ability for it to work in one market and not work in another is going to cause multiple challenges across the ecosystem.
Yes and no. I guess if you're referring to the 2 band plans, the 700, the US, and the APT, for Region 3, the APT band plan, they're quite different. So you're right, most of the devices may not work, they may not be interoperable within the 2 regions, but then you have another factor, because in Europe, the digital dividend band is altogether different. So that's 800 megahertz band. So we clearly need to find some common ground for global harmonization anyway. So it may not be such an issue, because there might be bands like the 1800, which may be common for all 3 regions.
And then finally, in your specific field and expert opinion, how long do you think that this entire deployment's going to take?
Are you referring to the digital dividend or LTE?
Well, actually both. One, the digital dividend, and the actual infrastructure, and then the devices.
I think maybe for the short term, the 1800 and 2.6 might see deployments faster. We have already seen that in countries like Hong Kong. There are networks using the 1800 for LTE. In the long term, I think if the region can harmonize with the APT band plan in the 700 megahertz band, that might actually provide the biggest deployments in the long term.
Chris, thanks very much for taking the opportunity to speak with us here today at the LTE Summit here in Singapore. I hope we get a chance for an update, possibly at the GSMA conference in Barcelona.
Thank you. I look forward to that.
I've been speaking with Chris Perera from GSMA. I am Tony Sklar with bnetTV.